Rod, Dr. Silver Age, had a great live last night, Saturday evening, called The Wicked Good Time Hour, where he showed not just some comic books, but he showed a lot of other things from his collection, from his vast collection, toys and such. And it kind of gave me an idea to maybe show some of the things that are in my collection other than comic books. It's not a lot. I'm going to be kind of all over the place here, but I thought I'd just do something a little different than just showing some books. And we'll start with this. I had mentioned this in his live that this was that I have my childhood lunchbox. This is from 1976, NFL lunchbox, the NFC on one side, and this was the first year the Seattle Seahawks, and the first year of the NFL of the 1976 season, their expansion year, they were an NFC team. Then starting in 1977, they went over to the AFC, where they were an AFC team for many years, and I know now they're back in the NFC. But and then on the other side, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers up in the right corner. They were an AFC team the first year, where they went 0-14, and then switched to the NFC, where they remained ever since then. Buffalo Bills at the time are my favorite team. I did like the Miami Dolphins, but the Bills were my favorite team. Loved their logo. Actually, I liked the standalone Buffalo better. But anyway, and yes, this is complete with the thermos. This is the lunchbox I took to George Washington Elementary School in Schiller Park, Illinois in 1976 and 77 and into 78 before my family moved to Florida. But this has survived all these years, probably thanks to my mother. And lunchbox related, this is a Evel Knievel thermos. I wish I had the lunchbox. This was a Christmas gift from my wife. And what child of the 70s did not like Evel Knievel? Loved Evel Knievel. I had obviously his the cycle and the action figure. I actually have the replica from California Creations, and it's really good too. It's really cool. Now, here's something. Don't judge me on this. This is something I picked up about 5, 6, 7 years ago. No, I do not collect Barbie dolls, but this case was at a place called Kelsey's Vintage, which is still around. It's a cool place of just memorabilia, records, old toys and such. And they had this on display, and I had seen it a few times, and it was only $10, but it was dirty, had a lot of glue residue, and I just thought to myself, I gotta rescue this. This is from 1964, so I bought it again for $10. Cleaned it up. I mean, it's a little dirty inside, stained, but needs a little dusting. But I usually display it up there, way up at the top. But I took it, got all the glue residue off of it, cleaned it up as best I could. I thought for $10, it was worth it. Definitely worth it. What else? Okay, here's a couple things. This, another Christmas gift from my wife. A Superman jigsaw puzzle from Whitman from 1966. That is not a sticker. That's like on there, 59 cents. That's what it cost. I believe all 150 pieces are still in this box. This was then sold at Alco discount stores for 56 cents. I believe this may have also been found at that Kelsey's Vintage in West Palm a few years ago. Complete and pretty cool, and I love Superman. And speaking of Superman, this was a Christmas gift from 1978, our first year in Florida. My mother and father gave me this. Was it 1978? Yep. The Great Superman book. And yes, it has seen better days. It is, as Shannon would say, it is well loved. And I just looked at this over and over and over again. Loved it. I still do to this day. And Superman and Batman, my two favorite heroes. that survived my childhood as well. Maybe not my comic books, but this definitely did survive. I used to collect sports cards, sports memorabilia, and I still have some of my cards. This was the Sport Americana, Football, Hockey, Basketball, and Boxing Price Guide by Dr. James Beckett. This later morphed into the Beckett Price Guide. And before football or hockey or basketball had their own individual price guides, they lumped them together because they were the redheaded stepchild to baseball cards. I believe this is from 1982. I bought this at a local bookstore in Florida for $8.95, and I've kept it. It's survived, and it's still in pretty good shape. There's a little biography of Dr. James Beckett and Denny, I think it's X as it's pronounced, and I know he has since passed away, but they were the authors of this. Pistol Pete, and the Golden Jet, Bobby Hull, along with, I can't see with going close there, George Halas, and Jake LaMotta, and of course Brian Sipe, who had, I think, an MVP year coming off in 1981 for the Cleveland Browns. Keeping it sports cards related, this magazine hit the newsstands in 1981, the spring of 1981, for $1.95, Baseball Cards magazine. And this actually magazine had a pretty good run. I think for a while it was published quarterly, and then I think maybe bi-monthly. This was the first issue. Again, my original copy that has survived all these years, missing a little piece there. A 1952 Topps mantle worth $1,100. And I know that now graded, you're looking at, I believe, over $1 million, depending on the grade of the card. But this was neat to see. I mean, at the time, I was probably into sports cards a little more than comic books in 1981, and knew the cards. Well, I didn't know that they had a lot of value, but when this came out, picked it up, and me and my friends, we just looked over this over and over. The 1975 Topps George Brett rookie card was featured in here, or at least it was starting to really go up in value. That was one of the hot cards at the time. So one more thing, sports cards related. This is not rare, but from 1996, the baseball card kid Mark Murphy, the world's best unopened pack wrapper and display box guide. This was a lot of fun because it's all in full color, showing pictures of the wrappers, solo packs, wax boxes. For a little bit, I started buying wrappers, but I didn't really stay with it long. Here's a favorite, this 1967, that's 67 Topps Football, 5-cent wax pack. You can see the key cards in the set. Obviously the prices have adjusted somewhat because Joe Namath is the most expensive card in the set, but there's Jack Kemp, Fred Biletnikoff, which I believe was his rookie year, Lenny Dawson, but also in that set, 1967, to note, was Wahoo McDaniel, who gained greater fame as a pro wrestler. It was his only year that he was featured in a football card set because he did play in the AFL for several years for 4 or 5 different teams. And the 67 set is a football set that I am slowly putting together. There's only 132 cards in the set. It was just featured the American Football League players, and I have about 115 of them. But I'm just not into cards right now, and haven't been for a while. But occasionally, if I see a card that I need, I'll buy. But of course, a couple of the cards that I really need is I need that Wahoo McDaniel, I need the Joe Namath, and the checklists. The checklists, of course, are tough to find unmarked, so they're expensive. And speaking of some of the 76 or 67 cards, I mean, here's just a slew of them. Most of the more valuable ones are in a safe, but I like these a lot. And again, I loved the AFL. Tom Flores gained greater fame as a coach. Art Powell. These are just some of them. Goose Goslin. A couple more things real quick. This first pennant is from 1959. Chicago White Sox, go champs. They were the American League pennant winners and went on to play the Los Angeles Dodgers in the World Series, where they lost 4-2, I believe. And they wouldn't appear in a World Series until the mid-2000s. I mean, the first decade of the 2000s, where they finally won after almost 100 years without. My dad loved the White Sox back in the day. This was a gift from my wife. I took it out of the pennant holder it was in because the pennant holder's kind of faded. And you can just see it's kind of hard to see. Well, you can see it there. It's a little faded. Towards the end it is. We're talking 1959. Nellie Fox, Sherm Lawler, Louis Aparicio, Ted Kluszewski was on the team. Bill Veeck. I don't believe Bill Veeck owned the White Sox at the time. I still think it was in the Comiskey family. But eventually Bill Veeck owned the White Sox for a while. Here's another cool pennant. From the Super Bowl VI, Miami Dolphins in New Orleans, where they played the Dallas Cowboys, and they got thrashed 24-3. 1972, not the undefeated season. The undefeated season was the 1972 season. This was after the 1971 season, and but they went to 3 straight Super Bowls, the first team to go to 3 straight Super Bowls. And this was a gift from a friend that I used to work with up in North Georgia, where I still spend most of my time. And I thought that was a very nice gift. One more pennant to show. And this is for my father. He gave me this in the early 70s, Chicago Blackhawks hockey pennant, 1970. I probably need a new one. This is kind of, it's dingy, but the pennant's still in pretty nice shape. I love the Blackhawks even to this day. They're still my favorite hockey team. My dad in the mid-70s had 4 part-time jobs, and one of his jobs was he worked at a flea market, selling stuff like this, pennants and stuff. And so he gave me this, and he also gave me a 1967 Buffalo Bills AFL pennant, which unfortunately I gave away several years ago. I kind of regret doing that. But because at the time, again in the mid-70s, the Buffalo Bills were my favorite team because O.J. Simpson was my favorite player. And I think that's it for now. But here, just a little something different. Some of the knickknacks that I have in my collection. And pulled some stuff over here. That's recent. That was a gift from a friend. There's some of my cards are in here. And some other books. But anyway, just a little something different. Hope you all enjoyed it. Take care, everyone.